You think you woke up just because your alarm rang. No, God woke you up. And anytime God wakes you up, it is not random. It is intentional. It is strategic. And it is loaded with purpose. He didn't just wake you up to breathe, eat, and exist. He woke you up to move, to build, to shift something in your life and in your destiny. This moment right here, this hour, this morning is a divine signal. There's something inside you that heaven still needs on earth. You woke up because purpose is not done yet. You woke up this morning not because your body was rested, not because the birds were chirping, not because the sun peeked through the blinds. You woke up because purpose shook heaven and heaven touched earth to call your name again. When you open your eyes, you may think it's just another day, but to God, it's another chapter, another assignment, another opportunity to move closer to the blueprint He placed inside your soul before you were even formed. You see, you don't wake up because it's Monday. You don't wake up because it's Friday. You wake up because you are not done yet. There is something that has not been built yet, and it's waiting on you, a dream that hasn't been manifested, a solution to a problem in this world that only your mind, your gift, your presence can solve. You were not created to exist on autopilot. You were not born to be a spectator. God does not recycle breath. If He let you live, it's because there's still something that only you can carry. That means it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter who left. It doesn't matter how dark the season was. If you opened your eyes this morning, then you've still got something in you that this world desperately needs. Let me ask you a hard question. Do you think you've already done all that you were created to do? Because if you did, you wouldn't be here. The fact that you still have time means heaven still has a task with your name on it. Purpose isn't measured by popularity. You might not have followers. You might not have applause. But there is a divine reason for your breath. Even if the world overlooks you, heaven is still invested in you. The boardroom might not call your name, but destiny does. Every morning, think about this. A painter doesn't wake up and throw away the canvas. A sculptor doesn't walk away when the figure is half shaped. God is the same. He doesn't discard what He started. You're not finished. You're not forgotten. You're still under construction, still unfolding, still designed to expand. That's why you woke up, because your blueprint is still in progress. Your vision is still pregnant. And just like a mother carries life until delivery, God allows you to carry purpose until it's fulfilled. So don't resent the days that feel ordinary. Even the days that feel like nothing is changing are still pushing you closer to what must come alive in you. Have you ever hit the snooze button thinking it's just another alarm? But what if I told you that when heaven sees you sleep, it's not counting hours, it's watching your readiness. And when the right moment comes, it doesn't just let your alarm wake you. It puts a pull in your spirit, a shake in your chest, a whisper in your ear that says, wake up, it's time. That's not just a call to get up from the bed. That's a call to get up from comfort, from doubt, from delay. You might be walking through hard things right now, but purpose doesn't die in pain. It often comes alive in it. And if your heart is still beating, your pain still has a point. Your survival is proof that your significance hasn't expired. Your mistakes haven't disqualified you. They've only refined you. The struggle wasn't sent to kill you. It was allowed to prepare you. I know some people wake up tired, worn out, dreading the day. But what if I told you that every time you wake up, the universe shifts slightly to make room for what you're still meant to do? Every time you inhale, it's a reminder, I've still got work to do. I've still got places to show up. I've still got people to bless. I've still got words to speak. I've still got chains to break. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to feel powerful. You just have to wake up with a sense of awareness. There's purpose on this day, and I'm going after it. Look at daily life. The bus driver that smiles at a child could be the only joy that kid gets all day. The nurse who goes the extra mile could be the last comfort a patient ever receives. The single mother who still reads to her kids after a long shift isn't just surviving, she's impacting eternity. That's purpose. It's not always loud, it's not always bright, but it's always significant. You woke up not just to function, but to fulfill. There are books in you. There are songs in you. There are ideas in you. There's healing in you. There's breakthrough in you. God woke you up because your destiny still has breath, and your journey still has pages that have yet to be written. The ink hasn't dried. The story's not done. The dream hasn't expired. That's why you woke up, because purpose is still chasing you. Your awakening is a signal, not a coincidence. You ever wonder why you woke up at 3:17 a.m. or why your eyes popped open at 44:03 a.m. with no alarm, no sound, no reason? You weren't thirsty, you weren't cold, but something in your spirit said, get up. That moment, that exact hour, was not just biology. It wasn't indigestion. It wasn't your body betraying your rest. That was a divine signal. A moment where the physical realm bowed to the spiritual realm and God whispered, I need to talk to you. See, most people miss this because they're looking for signs on billboards. They want lightning. They want thunder. But when heaven wants to move in your life, it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it wakes you up. We live in a world so loud that we've become addicted to noise. We expect direction to come through chaos, but when God wants to give you strategy, instruction, or revelation, he often comes through silence. And silence is most pure when everyone else is asleep. That's why you wake up when the world is quiet. That's why you're stirred before the birds begin to sing. Because in that stillness, your soul is more sensitive, more open, more ready to receive. It's not a coincidence, it's a summons. God doesn't wake you for no reason. He doesn't disturb sleep without purpose. When he interrupts your rest, it's because he's trying to give you rest in an area you've been struggling. You thought your answer was coming in a conversation, a connection, a paycheck. But sometimes your answer comes in the form of a whisper at 300 a.m., a push to get on your knees, a pull to open your journal, a moment where the Creator says, I want to download something into you before the noise of the day drowns out the frequency of heaven. Imagine a general waking up a soldier in the middle of the night. He doesn't do that for small talk. He does it when there's a mission, a threat, a move that needs to be made before the enemy has a chance to act. That's what God does when he wakes you. It's not an interruption. It's an invitation. It's not a disturbance. It's a divine download. He's telling you, I want to tell you something before the enemy tries to lie to you tomorrow. I want to instruct you before confusion hits. I want to speak peace before the pressure comes. That's not random. That's not a glitch in your sleep cycle. That's a meeting. That's your appointment. People set alarms to catch flights, get to work, or make meetings with people they deem important. But when God wakes you, you don't need an alarm. Your spirit is the clock and heaven is the scheduler. That moment when you wake up out of nowhere, that's not your body malfunctioning. That's your destiny being called into formation. It's as if your purpose says, wake up. There's something you need to hear before this day begins. But so often we roll over, check our phones, and scroll right past the signal. We silence heaven with distraction. We cancel our divine appointment with a yawn. And then we wonder why the day feels off, why we feel disconnected, why confusion creeps in before lunch. You don't need to wait for a sign in the sky. You are the sign. The fact that you woke up at a specific time is proof that something specific needs to happen. God doesn't do general. He does intentional. He wakes you at the hour when your heart is ready to receive something your mind won't understand later in the day. That's why you're stirred in the early hours, not because you're broken, but because you're being briefed. Let's bring it to real life. Have you ever noticed how some of the most powerful ideas come when you're alone and quiet? Think about artists, writers, visionaries. They often talk about inspiration hitting in the middle of the night. That's not just creativity, that's connection. That's tapping into a realm where your distractions are dead and your destiny is alive. You don't have to be famous, spiritual, or perfect to hear from God. You just have to be available. And sometimes the only time you're available is when you're half asleep at 4, say 12 a.m. with messy hair and a half, hearted prayer whispering from your lips. You may have dismissed it before. You may have thought it didn't mean anything. But I dare you to take it seriously next time. Because when God wakes you, he's not trying to inconvenience you. He's trying to equip you. He's trying to show you what's ahead. He's trying to protect you from what you don't even know is coming. He's trying to pour into you so you don't pour out from an empty cup later. You think it's small, but it's strategic. Think of it like this: your phone gets updates in the middle of the night, not during peak hours, not when it's being used, but when it's still connected and alone. The same is true for your spirit. You're most ready for downloads when you're not running, not scrolling, not talking, just still. And that stillness often comes when everyone else is sleeping. That's the hour of clarity. That's the hour of insight. That's the hour where you don't just hear God, you feel him moving. So when you wake up at those odd hours again, don't curse it. Don't ignore it. Don't brush it off. Pause, breathe, listen, ask, what do you want me to see? Because that's not just another hour on the clock. That's not your body misbehaving. That is your soul responding to a heavenly signal that says, there's something I want to reveal, and I chose you to hear it first. God wakes you when he's about to shift something. Have you ever felt a sudden pull in your chest? A wake-up call in the middle of the night that you can't explain. It's not anxiety. It's not your bladder. It's not the neighbor's dog barking. It's something deeper, something sacred. It's God, not yelling, not forcing, but gently calling you into awareness because something in your life is about to shift. And here's the thing: divine shifts rarely send calendar invites. They don't give you time to rehearse. They show up when you're still wrestling with the last season, and suddenly God says, I'm about to do something new, and I need you awake for it. Most people think God only moves in the light, in public, in places of recognition. But some of his greatest moves begin in hidden moments, in the quiet places, in the hours where most people are asleep, distracted, or numbed by routine. If you're waking up in strange moments, feeling unrested but spiritually alert, don't ignore that. That's the whisper before the wave. That's the tap on the shoulder before the promotion, the shift, the transformation. That's God preparing you in private before he launches you in public. Think about it. Before anything shifts on the outside, it has to shift on the inside. The real battles are won in the invisible realm. That uneasiness you feel isn't random, it's alignment in progress. God doesn't just change your location, he changes your mentality. He changes your posture. He changes your vision. Because if you're not prepared for the shift, you'll sabotage the very thing you've been praying for. So he wakes you, not to disrupt your rest, but to download new instructions, new clarity, new strategy. Have you ever been cleaning out your closet and suddenly you find something valuable buried beneath all the stuff you forgot? That's what happens in these moments. When God wakes you up in the middle of the night, he's saying, there's something buried under your routine that I want to resurrect. There's a gift under your grief, a calling under your chaos, a new path under your pain. But you can't see it while everything is noisy. So he pulls you out of the day's confusion and brings you into the stillness of the night, not to punish you, but to prepare you. People don't like shifts because they come without warning. You can't plan for them. You can't negotiate with them. And that's why God speaks before them, because he knows your faith has to be greater than your fear. When a shift is coming, your spirit often picks it up before your mind does. You may not know the details, but you'll feel the urgency. That's why you're restless. That's why your normal doesn't feel normal anymore. That's why things that used to satisfy you now feel empty. It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough in disguise. Think about the caterpillar. It doesn't shift while moving. It shifts while still, while hidden. While alone in that cocoon, something that once crawled begins to develop wings. That's what God does with you in those early morning awakenings. He cocoons you from the noise of the world. He separates you, not to isolate you, but to transform you. Because when you emerge, you won't look like what you've been through. You won't walk like you used to. You won't think like you used to. You'll fly, but the wings develop in the quiet hours. A woman in labor doesn't get to choose when her water breaks. It happens when the baby is ready, and sometimes your purpose breaks into your life when you least expect it. The contractions of life, pressure, delay, confusion are not signs of death. They're signs that something is crowning. And when God wakes you up at that critical hour, he's not trying to scare you. He's letting you know the delivery room is open. Your time is coming. Your promise is being positioned. And he needs you alert because the shift is here. People think shifts are big and loud, but sometimes they start with small acts of obedience. Waking up and writing that one idea, praying instead of scrolling, journaling instead of complaining, taking 5 minutes to sit in silence and ask, what are you saying to me, God? That's how big things begin, with small yeses. God doesn't need your performance. He needs your participation. He needs your spirit tuned in, because the shift coming your way isn't just about blessing. It's about responsibility. It's about growth. It's about a new dimension that requires a new version of you. And when that shift begins, when the doors open, when the phone rings, when the opportunity knocks, you'll remember those moments when you were awake while everyone else was asleep. You'll remember the instructions, the clarity, the inner peace you gained in those midnight whispers. And that's what will separate you from the rest. Because while they were busy trying to be seen, you were being prepared. The shift doesn't wait for comfort. It waits for readiness. And when God sees that you're ready, not just in appearance, but in alignment, he begins to move. He shifts resources. He shifts relationships. He shifts your environment. And most importantly, he shifts you. Because before anything around you can elevate, something inside you has to evolve. That's why he woke you up. Not because he wants you tired, but because he wants you transformed. Because where he's taking you next, the version of you that went to sleep last night can't lead it. Only the awakened you can. There's a battle over your day before it begins. There's a battle over your day before it even begins. And the proof is in how hard it is just to start the morning right. Have you ever noticed that the moment you try to do something intentional, wake up early, pray, read, plan your day with purpose, suddenly your mind floods with distractions. Your phone lights up, your body feels extra tired. Doubt whispers, go back to sleep. That's not random. That's resistance, because the enemy doesn't wait until noon to derail you. He comes at the break of day, when your spirit is most vulnerable, and your decisions have the power to shape everything that follows. See, most people underestimate mornings. They treat it like a throwaway period. Snooze buttons, scrolling through social media, rushing out the door. But what if I told you the real war is not when problems hit at 3 p.m., but when you hit the alarm at 6 a.m.? That's when the battle for your clarity, focus, and power begins, and God knows it. That's why he wakes you early. That's why he stirs your soul before the sun rises. Because the moment you open your eyes, something unseen is already trying to claim your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions for the rest of the day. You've got to understand, every day you wake up, Heaven and hell both recognize one thing: you are dangerous. You are a threat. Your movement has weight. Your words carry power. Your presence disturbs the kingdom of darkness. And if the enemy can infect your morning, he can influence your momentum. That's why some mornings feel like battles, because they are. You're not just waking up to brush your teeth, you're waking up to decide the direction of your destiny. And God is calling you early, not to tire you, but to train you for that battle. You ever notice how successful people, those who lead with influence, create impact, and walk with purpose, protect their mornings? They don't just roll into the day reacting. They rise with intention, because they know the first thoughts of the day are the architects of the next 24 hours. And what God is doing when he wakes you early is building that architecture with you. He's saying, before the emails come, before the confusion hits, before people start pulling on your energy, let me shape you. Let me speak into you. Let me cover you so that nothing outside of you controls what happens inside of you. Let's get real. How many times have you rushed through a morning and felt off all day? You were present physically, but you were disconnected mentally and spiritually. That's not because the day was cursed. It's because the foundation was never laid. You can't build a solid house on a shaky beginning. That's why God sometimes pulls you up at 4:55 a.m. Not because he needs anything from you, but because he wants to give you something before the noise, before the pressure, before the doubt comes knocking. You wouldn't step onto a battlefield with no armor, so why do we step into our day with no covering, no focus, no word, no direction? And then we wonder why we feel defeated before lunch? Because the battle didn't start when the stress hit. It started when we ignored the whisper that said, wake up, spend time, prepare. God doesn't want you reacting all day. He wants you ruling. He doesn't want you running behind time. He wants you ahead of it. And the way to get ahead is to wake up with him, to receive the strategy before the storm, the peace before the pressure. Think about athletes. They don't wait until the competition to train. They rise before the sun. They stretch, they prepare, they visualize. Because by the time the game starts, they're not trying to get ready. They are ready. That's what God wants for you. That before the challenges even appear, you've already met with him. You've already anchored yourself. You've already declared, this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it, not because it's easy, but because I am equipped. Let me hit you with something deep. Some battles are won before they're even fought. Not because the problem disappears, but because you show up with power. You don't crumble when they come for your peace, because your peace isn't circumstantial. It was planted in the early hours when heaven woke you and whispered, get up, warrior. There's purpose on your life. You don't lose your mind when the unexpected happens, because your mind was renewed before the sun came up. The enemy had a plan for your day, but God had a word that canceled it before it even started. You've got to stop seeing early wake-ups as inconvenience and start seeing them as interventions. That moment when your eyes open before the alarm, that's God saying, I'm giving you a head start. I'm giving you vision before confusion. I'm giving you peace before pressure. I'm giving you power before people try to drain you. That's how you win the day, by winning the morning. This is why God doesn't always speak in loud, dramatic ways. Sometimes he just stirs your spirit before dawn. Sometimes he whispers in the quiet, because that's when you're finally available. He's not trying to ruin your sleep. He's trying to protect your purpose. He's not interrupting your rest. He's securing your next level, because the version of you that just reacts to life is over. The version of you that wakes up and walks in divine power, that's the one the enemy fears. That's the one that wins before breakfast. That's the one God is waking up now. Early awakening is the call to spiritual intelligence. It's not your alarm clock that's shaking your spirit awake. It's your purpose trying to reach you. When you're waking up early and you don't know why, when sleep escapes you and your eyes open while the world is still quiet, that's not random. That's not coincidence. That's a divine alert system activating your spiritual intelligence. See, the average person sleeps through life. They snooze not just alarms, but opportunities. They wake up physically, but never wake up spiritually. But when God begins to stir your soul in the early hours, it's because he's calling you to rise above average, above routine, above confusion. Because there is something he wants to deposit in you that can only be received in stillness. Spiritual intelligence is not just about knowing scriptures. It's about being sensitive to divine timing, divine shifts, divine instructions. You can have all the knowledge in the world and still miss your moment. But when you are spiritually intelligent, you don't just react, you discern. You can feel what's not being said. You can sense what's coming before it arrives. That's why God wakes you early, because before the traffic of life begins, he wants to give you a download, a vision, a warning, a strategy. And it's not for everybody. That's why he comes to you in the quiet, because the next level of your life can't be built with noise. It must be birthed in clarity. Do you know what happens when you start responding to those early wake-up calls? You start getting ahead of life. Things that used to shock you now prepare you. You stop stumbling into decisions and start making moves with conviction. because spiritual intelligence is what makes you see in the dark. It allows you to walk into rooms already knowing who's for you and who's against you, already knowing what doors are yours and which ones are distractions. People may think you're gifted, but it's not just talent, it's alignment. Because you didn't wake up chasing the world. You woke up listening to the whisper of God. Think about people who drive in fog. The ones who crash are the ones who keep driving fast like nothing's changed. But the spiritually intelligent slow down, they adjust, they tune in, and that's why they make it to their destination safely. That's what early waking does. It allows you to see that the environment is shifting, that something's not quite right in your circle, that your spirit is uneasy for a reason. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. And those who don't listen to that early call miss what could have saved them. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're on a flight and the pilot comes on and says, "We're about to hit turbulence." That announcement gives you time to put on your seatbelt, brace yourself, and prepare. Now, imagine there was no announcement. You're sipping your drink, watching a movie, and suddenly the plane shakes violently. That would terrify you. The difference: one person got preparation, the other got shock. God wakes you early so you don't live your life shocked, so you're not blindsided by turbulence. He gives you the announcement before the shaking begins. Spiritual intelligence is the ability to move with wisdom even when the facts aren't all there yet. It's like walking through a dark hallway and still knowing where the light switches. That's what God builds in you. When He wakes you early, it's not just about discipline, it's about direction. It's about hearing things others can't hear. It's about making decisions others think are crazy, but later they'll see the fruit of what you heard. That's the power of the secret place. That's what separates leaders from followers. Perception. You can't lead what you can't sense. And you can't sense what you're not still enough to receive. You ever had a moment when you listened to your intuition and avoided a disaster? That's not just intuition, that's spiritual intelligence in action. That's divine data being downloaded into your spirit because you showed up to the meeting God scheduled before dawn. And the more you obey that call, the sharper your spirit becomes. Your discernment stops being rusty. Your decisions stop being desperate. You're no longer tossed by every emotion, every crisis, every delay, because you know how to rise before the world wakes up and get divine clarity that sets the tone for your entire day. This is why so many people feel like they're always 10 steps behind, because they refuse to answer the call that comes before the calendar starts. They wait for problems to arise before they pray. They wait for confusion before they seek wisdom. But spiritual intelligence doesn't wait. It watches, it listens, it learns. And it's in those early morning moments that God gives you insight that books can't teach and mentors can't offer. He shows you where you're out of alignment. He reveals your next move. He exposes what looked good but was never God. Let's be honest, life is too unpredictable to move without insight. You can't afford to just hope for the best anymore. You've got to wake up and be equipped, because the attacks coming for your peace, your family, your finances, your calling, they don't announce themselves. But when you develop spiritual intelligence, you're not just protected, you're positioned. You walk into rooms that your RA Summit didn't qualify you for. You make decisions that don't make sense to others, but birth miracles in your life, because you weren't led by logic, you were led by the Spirit. God wakes you up early because He's cultivating something rare in you: awareness. You don't need another motivational quote. You need insight. You need clarity that comes from above. You need to know when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to be silent, when to connect and when to walk away. That kind of clarity doesn't come from Netflix. It comes from kneeling in the quiet when the world is still asleep and heaven is downloading truth directly into your soul. That's the power of spiritual intelligence. That's why He wakes you, not to disturb your sleep, but to activate your destiny. Your voice is most powerful when it's still quiet. Your voice is most powerful when it's still quiet. Most people don't understand this because they think power is in noise. They think authority comes when you shout, when you're seen, when you make the loudest announcement. But heaven doesn't operate on volume, it operates on clarity. And sometimes the most earth-shaking breakthroughs begin in silence, in stillness, in that moment when everything is calm, when no one else is watching, when there's no applause, no crowd, no spotlight. Just you, your soul, and your voice. That's where power is born. You ever notice how storms make the most noise, but it's the seed that breaks through silently? The loudest things in your life are often the most temporary, but the most powerful things, they grow in quiet. A tree doesn't make noise while it's rising through the soil. A baby doesn't shout before it's formed in the womb. And your purpose, your real purpose, doesn't scream for attention. It waits for alignment. That's why God wakes you up when it's quiet. That's why your spirit stirs before the sun, because your most potent voice isn't the one everyone hears. It's the one you hear in the stillness, that voice that whispers direction, that voice that dares to believe when doubt is yelling. When your environment is loud, your power gets diluted. But when it's quiet, your voice becomes a weapon. That's why the early hours matter. That's why God calls you before the chaos begins, because your power isn't in reacting to life, it's in commanding it before it starts. Think about a commander in the army. He doesn't shout in the middle of the battlefield. He issues orders before the fight. In a war room, in strategy meetings, in silence, the real power comes before the noise. That's what God is giving you in the quiet. Strategy, alignment, firepower. Have you ever sat in your room when everyone else was asleep and your thoughts suddenly felt louder? That's not anxiety. That's not insomnia. That's awareness. That's the environment finally becoming quiet enough for you to hear what your soul's been trying to say all day. You weren't distracted by calls, messages, demands. You could finally hear yourself. And when you hear yourself clearly, you stop accepting less than you deserve. You stop second guessing what you know in your spirit, because quiet strengthens conviction, and conviction births power. Let's bring it to real life. Ever been in an argument where everyone's yelling, but the one who speaks last, calmly, with clarity and truth, that person owns the room, because real power doesn't compete for attention, it commands it. That's how your voice works in the spiritual realm. When it comes from stillness, it comes from authority. You're not just talking, you're speaking from alignment, from obedience, from purpose. You're not just reacting to life, you're creating it with your words, because your words have weight when they're rooted in stillness. There's a reason why the world wants you constantly distracted, because distraction is the enemy of revelation. If the enemy can keep you loud on the outside, he can keep you weak on the inside. That's why your schedule is always full, your phone is always buzzing, your mind is always racing, because noise drowns power. But God, in his wisdom, doesn't fight noise with more noise. He draws you into stillness. He wakes you early, not to stress you out, but to center you, to remind you who you are before the world tries to redefine you, to let you speak before your peace gets polluted. And let's not miss this, your voice is not just what you say, it's what you believe. It's how you carry yourself. It's what your decisions say when your mouth is closed. It's the energy you walk into a room with. It's the peace that confuses people who know your pain. When you've met with God in the quiet, people can feel it even when you say nothing, because your stillness becomes strength, your silence becomes sacred. And when you finally do speak, your voice has weight, not just volume. Remember, even in nature, it's the still, small wind that carries the strongest force. A whisper can shift the course of a heart more than a scream. And that's how your voice moves when it comes from silence. It doesn't just enter ears, it enters spirits. It disrupts depression. It dismantles fear. It builds faith, because it's not empty noise. It's full of power, full of truth, full of divine alignment. That's what God is developing in you when he wakes you before the noise. He's not just giving you peace, he's giving you power. The greatest leaders, the most impactful voices, the world changers, they all had moments of quiet before the movement. They were hidden before they were revealed. They were still before they spoke. Because you can't carry a loud destiny with a noisy spirit. You must first master silence before you release strength. That's why your early morning wake up is sacred. That's why your stillness is not weakness. That's why your quiet time is non-negotiable. Because your voice, your real, powerful, unshakable voice, is not forged in front of people. It's forged in the presence of purpose, in the presence of God, in the presence of silence. Waking up is a daily reminder. You're not finished yet. Every single time you wake up, it's a statement from heaven that your assignment is not over. You weren't just casually given another day, you were intentionally chosen to continue. Every breath you take in the morning is confirmation that your existence still holds meaning, that the world still needs what you carry, that your journey, no matter how rough, is still in motion. Waking up isn't routine, it's a reminder that you're not finished, you're not forgotten, you're not a mistake, you're still on the clock of destiny. When you open your eyes in the morning, you may feel tired, drained, or even discouraged, but your purpose didn't sleep. Your calling didn't take a break. While your body was at rest, your assignment remained alive. Waking up is not just about getting out of bed. It's about getting back in the ring. It's about showing up to the fight of life again, because the ref hasn't counted you out. You might have bruises, but you've still got breath. And as long as you have breath, you've got possibility. You ever wonder why you didn't die in that accident? Why you made it out of that sickness? Why you survived that heartbreak? Why the thing that broke others didn't break you? Because you're still in the plan. You're still in the process. You're still in the preparation phase of something that is about to blow minds. And God wakes you up not to remind you of your pain, but to reignite your purpose. Each sunrise is not a reset, it's a recharge. Enrich your mission, your voice, your ideas, your healing, your impact. Some people didn't make it through the night. Some people went to sleep with dreams they never got to fulfill. But you woke up, you opened your eyes. That means God still trusts you with the weight of influence. That means your tears haven't been wasted. That means your late nights and quiet prayers have not been in vain. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're strong. It means you're chosen. And being chosen doesn't require you to be flawless. It requires you to be available. Imagine a construction worker showing up to a building site each day, even though the building isn't done yet. Every brick he lays might feel small. Every day might feel repetitive. But he shows up because he knows that progress is not about instant results. It's about consistent faithfulness. Waking up is God's way of saying, keep building. You may not see the full structure yet, but the blueprint is still active. The foundation is still firm, and what's coming is bigger than what's been. There are days when you wake up and feel no motivation, no clarity, no fire. And that's okay, because purpose isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet push, a subtle nudge that says, don't quit now. Think of a single mom who has to get out of bed before sunrise, prepare food, handle responsibilities, and hold it all together. Her strength isn't in her smile, it's in her showing up. That's power. That's purpose in motion. That's destiny under pressure. And that's what you carry too. That quiet resilience that refuses to stay down even when life tries to bury you. And hear this, if you were truly finished, you wouldn't wake up. Life is not run by accident. Destiny doesn't operate on coincidence. You're alive because your presence is still required. There's a door you're supposed to open, a word you're supposed to speak, a person you're supposed to help, a change you're supposed to spark. You're not here to simply exist. You're here to influence, to lead, to become. That's why God wakes you up, because your existence is an answer to somebody's problem. Every time you wake up, heaven is saying, tag, you're it. You're the one carrying the idea, the solution, the insight, the peace, the creativity. Even if you feel unqualified, broken, or tired, you've still been handed another day, another canvas, another opportunity to try again, to dream again, to forgive again, to take one more step toward the version of you that the world is waiting to see. And you don't have to be famous to be impactful. You don't need a platform to shift lives. Sometimes your very survival is somebody else's inspiration. Think about a seed. When it's buried, it looks like it's done, covered in dirt, pressed down, out of sight. But waking up is like the moment the seed begins to break through the soil. It doesn't look like much on the outside, but something powerful is happening beneath the surface. That's you. Every time you open your eyes, you're breaking through layers of limitation. You're rising against odds. You're growing into the person you were created to be. And it doesn't matter how slow the progress feels. As long as you wake up, you're winning. Don't underestimate the power of one more morning. Some of the most transformational chapters in history began with an ordinary person waking up and deciding, I won't give up today. Waking up is your vote for life, your refusal to quit, your declaration that fear, failure, and fatigue won't win. So even if your life feels like it's stuck in the middle of a messy chapter, waking up is proof that the story isn't over. Not even close. The author is still writing. The ink hasn't dried, the plot is still shifting, and your next page could be the one that changes everything. So now, after all has been said, I need you to understand one thing. Waking up is no small thing. It is not ordinary. It is not casual. It is a spiritual announcement that you matter. The world may not have applauded when your eyes opened this morning, but heaven took notice. Destiny stood at attention. Purpose whispered your name. You were chosen again. Do you know how powerful that is? Some people chase power through position, through titles, through applause. But you were handed power the moment you woke up. There's a reason the enemy tries to exhaust you, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Because if he can make you feel like waking up is just routine, he can rob you of the fire that was placed inside you. But today you know better. Today you rise different. Today you wake up knowing you're not random, you're not here by mistake, and you're not waking up just to survive. You're waking up to dominate. You were never created to be average. You were designed to invade darkness with light. Listen to me. If you are breathing, you still have something to build, something to break, something to become. You don't wake up just to repeat yesterday. You wake up to rewrite the rules. You wake up to shake the ground you walk on. You wake up to say, I'm still here and I still believe. Maybe everything in your life doesn't look like it should, but even broken crayons still color. You don't need everything to be perfect to walk in purpose. You just need the right mindset. The most dangerous person is not the one who has the most money or fame or followers. The most dangerous person is the one who woke up with nothing but still got up and believed something could change. That person is a force. That person becomes a storm. That person bends reality with persistence. And if that's you, if you still have a flicker of belief left, then there's nothing that can stop you. Not your past, not your critics, not your pain. When your spirit is locked into your assignment, even your scars become part of the strategy. Let me tell you something. Every legend was once unknown. Every hero you admire had mornings where they didn't want to get out of bed, but they did. They pushed, they rose. And it wasn't because they always felt strong. It was because they knew the power of showing up. Showing up is half the battle. If you keep showing up, something has to break. Something has to open. Something has to shift. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next one. You don't need the approval of everyone. You just need the alignment of the one who wakes you up each morning. Your value isn't in your status. It's in your assignment. You are anointed for the challenge. You are wired for this war. You are equipped for the climb. Remember what I'm telling you. The comeback is always stronger than the setback. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Ships don't sink because of the water around them. They sink because of the water that gets in them. Don't let what's around you get inside you. Don't let the noise drown your inner voice. Don't let temporary storms make you forget your eternal purpose. You've got something on the inside of you that's bigger than what's happening outside of you. When you wake up tomorrow, don't just rise physically, rise mentally, rise spiritually. Declare over your life, I was born for this. Say it until your fears lose their voice. Say it until your habits start to change. Say it until your environment begins to shift, because you can't stay small when your calling is screaming greatness. The ground you're walking on has been waiting for your footsteps. The space you're in has been waiting for your voice. So don't tiptoe through life. Wake up like the world needs you, because it does. This is not just another day. This is the day that laziness dies, that fear takes a final breath, that confusion gets silenced, that your dream becomes undeniable. From this moment forward, walk like you carry something holy, speak like your words plant seeds, work like you're building something eternal. And remember, the same God who woke you up today already saw the victory you're about to walk into. So act like it, speak like it, live like it. You didn't wake up to be average. You woke up to be legendary.